Imagine living in a country where women outnumber men by over 136,000 people, where hiring a husband for an hour isn't a dating service, it's just to fix your broken sink, where the smartest, most beautiful women can't find partners because there simply aren't enough men to go around. This isn't science fiction. This isn't some dystopian novel. This is Latvia in 2024, a real European nation facing one of the most extreme gender imbalances in the entire world. Today, we're diving deep into the shocking demographic crisis that's turned this Baltic country upside down, exploring the dark history that created it, and uncovering the surprising ways Latvian society is adapting to a future where men are becoming an endangered species. But before we get into this mind-blowing story, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me, would you move to a country with this kind of gender imbalance? I'm genuinely curious about your thoughts, and I read every single comment. Now, let's get into it. Let me hit you with some numbers that will blow your mind. According to the latest data from Eurostat, Latvia has 15.5% more women than men. To put that in perspective, that's more than 3 times the European Union average. We're talking about a country of roughly 1.86 million people, where approximately 1 million are women and only 860,000 are men. That's a difference of 136,000 people, an entire city's worth of missing men. But here's where it gets even more dramatic. The gender ratio sits at just 86 men for every 100 women. In some Latvian cities, the numbers are even more extreme. Prelai, 133 women per 100 men. Valka, 132 women per 100 men. Kraslava, 131 women per 100 men. Latvia officially holds the title of having the worst gender imbalance in all of Europe. Let that sink in for a moment. The age factor. Now, you might be thinking, well, maybe it's just because women live longer, and you'd be partially right, but the situation is far more complex and disturbing than simple life expectancy differences. Here's the thing. Among people under 30, men actually outnumber women. It's a normal, balanced population. But something catastrophic happens as Latvians age. By the time you reach the 30 to 40 age group, prime dating and marriage years, there are already nearly 3,000 more women than men. And among people over 65, women outnumber men 2 to 1. That's right, double. At the beginning of 2025, there were 116 women for every 100 men in Latvia overall. This isn't just a statistical curiosity. This is a full-blown national crisis that's reshaping every aspect of Latvian life. To understand how Latvia ended up in this situation, we need to go back in time. Way back to one of the darkest periods in human history, World War II. During the war, Latvia lost approximately 12.5% of its entire population. Think about that. More than 1 in every 10 people vanished. The country was caught between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, occupied by both, and the male population was absolutely decimated. By 1950, just 5 years after the war ended, the number of women exceeded men by over 260,000 people. The scars of war had created a massive gender imbalance that would echo through generations. But here's what most people don't know. The gender gap actually improved over the next few decades. By 1990, when Latvia finally gained independence from the Soviet Union, that 260,000 gap had shrunk to 180,000. The country was slowly healing. The post-Soviet collapse. Then disaster struck again, but this time it wasn't bombs and bullets. It was the collapse of the Soviet system and the brutal transition to capitalism. When the Soviet Union fell apart in 1991, Latvia's economy imploded. The social safety nets disappeared overnight. Jobs evaporated. The future looked bleak, and men took the hardest hit. According to psychoanalyst Ansis Stabingis, who treats men for depression and suicidal tendencies in Latvia, the economic crisis pushed huge numbers of men into depression and unhealthy coping mechanisms. The country that was supposed to be free became a trap of unemployment, alcoholism, and despair. By 2020, the gender gap had stabilized at about 150,000, but the damage was done. An entire generation of men had been lost to economic collapse, and the country has never recovered. The emigration crisis. But the story doesn't end there. Since joining the European Union in 2004, Latvia has experienced massive emigration. And guess who's been leaving? Young people, working-age people, and disproportionately, the men who remain are leaving to find better opportunities in Western Europe. Between 1990 and 2024, Latvia's population plummeted from 2.66 million to 1.88 million. That's a loss of 780,000 people, 30% of the entire population gone in just 3 decades. Latvia is now one of the most rapidly depopulating countries in the world, losing about 20,000 people every year. And with more men emigrating than women, the gender gap just keeps getting worse. Okay, so we've covered the historical reasons for the gender gap. But why does it persist today? Why are Latvian men continuing to die at such alarming rates? The answer is both simple and heartbreaking. Lifestyle choices. Latvian men smoke at triple the rate of women. According to official statistics, 31% of men are daily smokers compared to just 10% of women. That's a staggering difference. But it's not just smoking. Over 62% of Latvian men are overweight or obese compared to 57% of women. They drink more heavily. They're less likely to seek medical care. They're more likely to engage in risky behaviors. The numbers don't lie. In 2023, the average age at death for Latvian men was 69.5 years. For women, 80.1 years. That's a gap of more than 10 years, one of the widest in the entire European Union. Let me throw some more sobering statistics at you. Latvia has the second highest death rate in the EU at 14.9 deaths per 1,000 people. The country also has the highest negative natural population change at -7.2, meaning far more people are dying than being born. In the 30 to 40 age group, male mortality is 3 times higher than female mortality in the same age bracket. The leading causes? Car accidents, alcoholism, and workplace accidents, all of which disproportionately affect men. And here's perhaps the most devastating statistic. Men account for 83.5% of all suicides in Latvia. Let me repeat that. More than 8 out of every 10 people who take their own lives in Latvia are men. The macho culture problem. Software engineer Agris Rīksts, interviewed about this crisis, pointed to something he calls macho culture as a major contributing factor. He explained, "It is kind of perceived that it is manly, that the more alcohol you can handle, the more of a man you are. This toxic masculinity prevents men from seeking help when they're struggling. It pushes them toward destructive behaviors. It celebrates risk-taking and discourages emotional vulnerability." Psychoanalyst Ansis Stabingis notes that many Latvian men refuse to seek professional help for depression or mental health issues because they see it as a sign of weakness. Instead, they self-medicate with alcohol, which only accelerates their physical decline. The result? A vicious cycle where cultural expectations literally kill men generation after generation. This story gets even more fascinating and honestly kind of bizarre. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this deep dive into one of Europe's strangest crises, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what other countries or demographic issues you'd like me to cover. Your suggestions literally shape this channel. All right, let's talk about what happens when a country runs out of men. Here's where things get really interesting and a little bit surreal. In Latvia, a booming industry has emerged, husband for an hour services. And no, this isn't what you're thinking. These aren't male escorts or dating services. These are literal handyman businesses that have rebranded themselves as rented husbands. Companies like Commanded 24 advertise men with golden hands, workers who will show up to fix your leaky pipes, mount your television, assemble your IKEA furniture, or handle any household repair. Another service, remontdarby.lv, explicitly brands its handymen as rented husbands. The concept is brilliantly straightforward. Women book online or by phone, and within hours, a man shows up at the door. Not to date, not to romance them, but simply to do the household tasks that traditionally would have been handled by a husband or male partner. One 29-year-old festival worker named Dania described her reality. 98% of my colleagues are women. There's nothing wrong with that, but just for the good balance, you would want to have some more men to flirt or chat with. It's just more interesting. Her friend Zane added that most of their girlfriends have simply gone abroad to look for partners because the dating pool in Latvia is so shallow. But the gender imbalance isn't just about numbers. It's about quality too. And this is where things get really controversial. Latvian women are crushing it educationally. According to World Bank data, Latvian women have one of the highest university enrollment rates in the world, over 80%. They're more educated than Latvian men by a significant margin. At the University of Latvia in Riga, there are 50% more women enrolled than men. Walk through any lecture hall, and the gender imbalance is immediately visible. Many Latvian women speak 3 or 4 languages fluently: English, Russian, German, and sometimes French or Spanish. They're ambitious, career-driven, and internationally connected. Writer and sex columnist Dace Ruxane, editor-in-chief of one of Latvia's most successful women's magazines, put it bluntly: the smartest girls are alone. The really beautiful girls are alone if they are smart. They want to find partners who are equal to them. But a man, having all this choice, doesn't need to be very perfect. He just sits in front of the TV and knows he can get a woman. That's a brutal assessment, but multiple sources confirm it. Highly educated, successful Latvian women are struggling to find partners who match their ambitions and qualifications. The dating market reality. So what does the dating scene actually look like in Latvia? For men, especially the decent, educated ones, it's a buyer's market. With so many women competing for relatively few eligible bachelors, men have tremendous leverage. They could be selective, demanding, or frankly, just lazy and still have options. For women, especially educated, professional women, it's brutally competitive. Many have simply given up on finding partners domestically and look abroad for relationships. The dating dynamics resemble what you might see in cities like New York or San Francisco, where gender imbalances create buyer's markets that favor one sex heavily over the other. Except in Latvia, this isn't limited to one city. It's the entire country. And here's a twist that surprises many outsiders. Latvia isn't conservative about relationships. The country has one of the highest divorce rates in the European Union. Latvian women have strong autonomy in marriage and aren't afraid to leave relationships that don't work. Traditional family values have weakened significantly. Marriage is no longer seen as women's only life option, and many women are choosing career and independence over settling for unsuitable partners. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, because Latvia's gender crisis is actually part of an even larger catastrophe. The country is dying. Latvia is losing 20,000 people every year through a combination of deaths outnumbering births and continued immigration. If current trends continue, the population is projected to drop to 1.5 million by 2045 and could fall below Estonia's population by 2060. By 2050, some projections suggest Latvia will have only 1.25 million people, less than half of what it had in 1990. This isn't just about gender anymore. This is about national survival. A country needs people, workers, taxpayers, parents, soldiers, innovators. Without them, the country itself ceases to function. The labor shortage crisis, the demographic collapse, is already creating severe economic problems. With so many people leaving and so few being born, Latvia faces critical labor shortages in essential industries. Who's going to build the houses, repair the roads, staff the hospitals, teach in the schools? The gender imbalance makes this worse. Many of the traditional male-dominated industries, construction, manufacturing, transportation, are desperately short of workers. Meanwhile, women dominate fields like education, healthcare, and administrative work. The economy is becoming unbalanced, not just demographically but structurally. What can be done? So is there any hope? Can Latvia reverse this crisis? The Latvian government has been trying various approaches. Economic development initiatives to keep young people from emigrating. Healthcare campaigns targeting male health issues. Mental health programs to address male depression and suicide. Immigration policies to attract workers from other countries. Some progress has been made. Latvia's economy has grown steadily, earning it the nickname Little Mighty Man of Europe. The per capita GDP has exceeded 20,000 euros, making it one of the fastest-growing small economies in the EU. But economic growth hasn't solved the population crisis. Young people still leave for better opportunities in Western Europe. Men still die young from preventable causes. The gender gap remains stubbornly wide. Perhaps the most important changes need to happen culturally, not economically. Latvia needs to address the toxic masculinity that's literally killing men. That means normalizing mental health treatment for men, challenging the drinking culture that's so deadly, promoting healthier lifestyles and regular medical checkups, creating support systems for men struggling with economic change. Women also need support. Despite being more educated and healthier, they still earn less than men on average, face barriers in certain industries, and carry disproportionate household responsibilities. And Latvia needs to have honest conversations about relationships and family formation. If highly educated women can't find suitable partners domestically, what does that say about how the country values education in men? If men feel entitled to be lazy because they have so many options, what does that say about cultural expectations? Latvia's crisis isn't unique. It's just more extreme than most places. Many countries face similar pressures. Aging populations, male health crises, educational gender gaps, emigration of young people, shifting relationship dynamics. Countries like Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, Lithuania, Armenia, and Moldova all face versions of the same problem. Even in countries like Japan, South Korea, and increasingly China, demographic time bombs are ticking. Latvia is a warning sign. It shows what happens when historical trauma, economic upheaval, health crises, and immigration all converge on a single population. It reveals the fragility of demographics and how quickly a society can spiral toward collapse. So what do you think? Is Latvia doomed, or can it pull itself back from the brink? Would you ever consider moving to a country with this kind of gender imbalance? And what other demographic crises should I cover on this channel? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video fascinating, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because we dive deep into strange, surprising, and shocking stories from around the world every single week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.